Hey there. Welcome to our live. We are inside the Radiantly Alive Woman Facebook community where we are talking all about scars. And today we are talking about a really interesting area. I have a little secret. I am a total foot geek, lover of feet, and we're going to talk a lot about ankle scars today. So we're going to talk about my 3 favorite considerations. So when we're talking about scars in all of these videos, we're talking about the physical component. What's going on physically in the body, how the scar is impacting the ankle physically. Then the second part that we always talk about is we talk about the emotional and energetic considerations. What's going on in that area because of the scarring? What could be happening because of the scarring itself, where it's located in the body and how that impacts our energy and our emotion, but also the event and the situation that occurred to create the scar. Then the final, third, probably most exciting part is I'm going to give you a method, a starting place so that you can start to resolve and begin to work with this scarring here. So as you probably know, but in case this is your first time watching, we have a running list going on inside the Radiantly Alive Facebook community. And every woman is like just tossing out scars. Scars anywhere. It could be scars on your feet. It could be scars on your hands. It could be scars from giving birth, organ removal or organ surgery scars. Whatever they are, big or small. We've had questions about moles, piercings. We're going to go through them because a lot of people, women right now, are dealing with something that they can't put their finger on, or that doesn't have a name. Maybe you've been searching for answers around your own health. Maybe you're struggling with your physical health, your mental health, your energy, your emotion, and you haven't quite figured out the method or the way to resolve. Like, what process do we go through? And I'm here to give you an alternative perspective, one that I've been doing for almost a decade now. And it's all around helping women understand the true potential, the transformation potential that is inside your scars. Nobody's talking about the importance of scars, and I want to kind of bridge that gap and bring education and knowledge to women about this topic. So if you know women, any woman in your life, close or distant, that would find this information useful, transformative, give them just a door, an entryway into some sort of healing, please invite them into this group. I've given everyone access to just invite women into this group. It's available and open to all women. So please continue to do that. I've been really grateful for all the help that you have been in getting women into this group and letting them receive this information. So let's jump into ankle scars. Ankle scars are really interesting. So I'm gonna try to reel it in and be as concise as I can, because we can totally go off on a wild and exciting tangent. But I'll try to bring you the biggest, most impactful components around ankle scars. We've been talking a lot about torso scars. You'll hear me talk a lot about these incredible significance around scars that are from the tip of your head to your pelvic floor. We're talking a lot about C-section, breast scars, organ removal, all sorts of stuff. But we haven't spent too much time in the limbs. And it's not necessarily that they're of less impact. Sometimes they are incredibly high on your priority list. And something that is incredibly high on my priority list when I'm working with clients is anything around the foot and ankle. I'm going to stay in the world of ankle. Feet need its own life. So if you're interested in that, put it up on the list and we'll start talking about it. I have a bunion video coming up soon. But if we stay in the world of ankle, the ankle is a very different world to your abdomen, for example, to your thigh. It's a lot less fleshy. There's a lot of tendinous stuff going on in your ankle, a wild amount. I think there's probably a few dozen tendons that are passing through the ankle joint, and a crazy amount of tendinous activity going on in the actual foot itself. There's a little muscle that extends each one of your toes, and each toe has 2 of those, so it gets really cumbersome. The list of tendinous activity and also ligamentous activity in the ankle is huge. It relies exclusively, the ankle, on how the muscles above the tendons and below the tendons are acting. So just to like back up a little bit, the true definition of a tendon is something that is in between a muscle belly and a bone. So you'll have like a muscle belly, let's take a bicep, it's just easy. Muscle, bicep will go into a tendon that attaches onto a bone. And it does it in two different directions. So wherever you see a muscle, there will be a tendinous junction on either end of that muscle. Then the true definition of a ligament is anything that attaches from a bone to another bone. So the ankle, as I'm sure you know, is a high area for ankle sprains, and you're damaging those ligaments. So what we need to kind of consider tendon versus ligament is muscle, tendon, that whole kind of area is incredibly vascular. You may know that if you've ever like pulled a muscle or strained a muscle, it has a very quick healing rate because of its like nourishment just pumping in and out of it. A ligament, for example, has less of that opportunity. It is less, it's slower to heal because of that. It doesn't have like a direct, artery or vein like plugging right into that. And so that makes the healing process of a ligament generally a lot slower. And there's a lot of camps that will say, ligamentous damage is worse off than breaking a bone. Sometimes it's just nicer in the grand scheme of things to break the bone because bone heals very well. Ligament doesn't heal as well. If you broke it, like totally severed that ligament, like a third-degree tear as we call it, then it's less likely to reform because it's like it's on a spring. Good thing I always have my elastic around because it proves useful. Ligaments are like pulled like this, and when that damage is so significant, it like cuts through the center of that ligamentous tissue, and it's hard for it to reform. So they have all these kind of like newer techniques now, like PRP and all sorts of things to try to like pull that connection back. So when we're thinking about the importance of our ankle, we need to keep that in mind. It's so important. The other thing we need to think about are these sweeping tissues. So I will post pictures inside this video after I finish this live, but you can do it right now. If you're on your laptop, I want you to Google Thomas Myers Anatomy Trains. Go into the Google image section and you'll see these beautiful models of the human anatomy, and they're blue. And this is how the body is functioning. It's functioning through these big sweeps of tissue from like tip to tail, like literally from the top of your head all the way down to your feet. And depending on where your ankle scar is, it will be impacting or damaging one of these like sweeps of tissue. So you'll see a sweep of tissue that comes through the whole front of the body called the superficial front line. It is literally like from the back of your skull, like through your neck, down your abs, down the front of your legs, and it comes all the way to the tips of your toes. You have a complementary one, the superficial back line, which is coming from the underneath of your foot, all the way back up the body, and it actually ends like here, your frontalis muscles in the front of your head. You'll see a bunch of other cool ones. They're all like, as soon as you start looking at that, you'll be like, oh my gosh, the body is amazing. And you start to see yourself as this holistic, integrated, whole human being, instead of what we tend to do is compartmentalize and like narrow our focus and be like, it's just a scar on my ankle. What's the big deal in that? But actually, when you start to look at the significance of how your body is in relationship with itself, it is very significant. And we'll talk about that. And I'll try to like really hone in on the interesting areas. And I'll also add a little bit of like cool neurology things and how certain muscles are plugged into certain organs, which is super cool. So just to kind of narrow in, I've had a lot of questions about ankle scars. People have written, they've had melanoma removed in the ankle area, like in the inside ankle. People will talk about having scarring on the outside part of their ankle, on the front part of their shin. So I want to try to cover all of this and break it down in a really simple way. The way that I used to explain, and still do, explain the legs, is I want you to imagine, excuse me, I just had a very dry cracker before I started. Not the best idea. So I want you to imagine like each leg as being like a pillar, or like 4 walls of a house. You need to have the outside wall, the inside wall, the back wall, and the front wall. So each of your legs has that. And obviously for it to remain stable, functional, reactive, adaptable, all 4 of those sides need to be functioning and responsive. When you have, and obviously you have 2 legs, so you gotta have one and then the other. And that will keep you like very solid, grounded, and feeling very like your legs are doing what they should be. They're functioning with a level of ease. Your legs are plugged into your pelvis, which then creates a nice stable torso. And so if a leg, if a foot, if an ankle is off slightly because of scarring, it can start to take your house down. Like, not necessarily in a very extreme way, but it can start to impact all of these small things become very significant, because your ankle and your foot is like your first meeting on the ground. It's like your first opportunity to interact with the external environment. So if that meeting, if that like first touch onto the ground with the foot is off slightly because one of the pillar, like one of the sides of your house is not working so well, that like feed up the body can slowly over time create a compensation that can create bigger stuff like low back pain, like chronic neck tension, like jaw stuff, like weakness in the core, like incontinence. It can really kind of grow and evolve into these like more significant things that are on our radar. But in general, our poor feet, they are not really, people kind of forget about them. They are like the last thought. I don't know if it's because we can't see them, like we're not looking down there often, they kind of seem far away. But really we kind of forget about our feet until they're like blaring at us. They're like really yelling. So we want to think smarter. We want to work and be smarter. So we want to think about each leg as having 4 walls of a house to create some stability, some solid foundation. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about where your scar is. Now, the other thing I want to bring up with the scars, because there's been so many questions about ankle scars, is the depth. The depth of the scar, the length of the scar, and where the scar is in relation to tendinous, ligamentous area versus like more supple, soft, gushy muscle will play a part. So if you've had just a small little nick and it's just been like a small kind of superficial layer of scarring, that's probably less likely to be on your priority list. You may have less physical considerations and more emotional. Like if it was a cancer scare and you had to get that removed quickly, there's a very high level of emotional tension and energetic holding in there that absolutely needs to be addressed. But the impact on your physical body may be less so. So you need to know that physicality for you. And a way to do that, and I'll talk about this in the what to do, is to assess the scar. What's nice about a foot is you can just like put it right in front of you and like check it out. It's pretty easy to look at, and we'll go through that in the what to do section. But really you want to know your story. You want to know and get really close to that when we're talking about the physical impact. The other thing about the feet is that they're like the last thing in the body. This is like as far as our fluid systems will go. It's very challenging if you have scarring there for the body to pull back that fluid back towards the center, towards the core. It's very challenging for the venous system, your veins. It's also very challenging for your lymphatic system. So swelling, inflammation is very real for people who have scars around their ankle. A lot of the time we don't know it. This is really common. People don't know because we have like weird blinders around our feet. But once you start pushing, like putting your thumb or putting your fingers into the scarring, you'll start recognizing that there is swelling there. And the body is challenged to recycle that. So it's building up a layer of It's called pitting edema. But what it looks like is, it looks like when you stick your finger in like plasticine or Play-Doh and you have like a thumb imprint and it remains. If that is happening in your body, we gotta sort that out. That becomes like a pretty high priority, because the body only has so much space for all the stuff. And because there's like a wild amount of things that need to be sliding and gliding against each other in the ankle, when we have swelling that has moved from like a very fluid-like substance, like blood and liquid, like inflammation, and it starts to solidify and thicken and hang around maybe for decades, it impedes the whole communication of that foot. It really challenges it, and over time it can be a big hindrance. It may not be so big as a local thing right now, but when you are losing your capacity to move your foot, when you're in your 70s and 80s and 90s, when falling is like the thing that we're all really worried about, you want to just keep like a good hygiene health around your feet, around your ankles. It's so important. And then, like I said, the ankle stuff can manifest into bigger stuff that we don't recognize. We haven't connected those dots. So I want to just go on and on and on, but I'll just leave it at that. Really pay attention to your ankle incidents, your ankle scars in relation to the symptoms that you feel now. You may notice that these things actually connect quite easily in your own timeline. So make sure you just check on that. So let's get into the sides of the ankle and the organs that it's related to. This is really cool. And then we'll go into one more thing, and then we'll go into energetics. So the front, the shin area, the shin, like the outside part. So you have like a very hard bone here, and then so like in this kind of quadrant, like front as well as side, aka lateral, if there's any anatomy geeks in here, that is all related, neurologically plugged into the health and function of your bladder. So people who have chronic ankle sprains now, because they have a scar there, it's very likely that they'll also have some sort of bladder thing going on. Maybe it's urgency, incontinence, fluttering, like a lot of nervous kind of feeling in the area. It's like a normal thing that I help women connect the dot with. The other thing you want to think about is on the inside of the ankle and the back, your calf, and then this other muscle called your tibialis posterior, which is a very significant ankle and foot muscle. They're related and plugged into your adrenals. So when you're stressed, which is a lot of people a lot of the time, and you have a scar there, one person wrote in on there that they have a big scar through the calf. That's impeding the function of the calf, restricting the function of the ankle, and it will be challenged. Your adrenals will be interrelated. So you may have trouble kind of working through stress or relaxing, feeling like you're able to like really tone down your adrenals. That may be a challenge that you have just because of the ankle scar. Then the other part that I want to just talk about is the bladder. So, sorry, not the bladder, the sex organs. So your sex organs, your reproductive system as a woman is plugged into the flexors of your big toe, okay? So the muscles in your toe that flex, okay? So if you have something going on with your ankle, like in the underneath, because the flexors are in the bottom, then something may be going on as well with your reproductive system. This is just another kind of link that you can start to think about. And then the last little piece around physical, I want you to greatly think about the house idea. And if your walls are coming down on one side because of a scar, you're not going to be putting your foot on the ground in a correct, ideal kind of fashion. And this, again, will impact the rest of it's very significant in how it impacts the rest of your body. And we're going to talk about this in the energetic component, because this is where it really shows up. So you have two houses, two four-walled, one right leg, one left leg. If that is not meeting the ground with a feeling of centeredness, you emotionally, energetically may also feel like there's a lack of groundedness, of stability in your life. You're meeting the earth element, like the earth itself, from a place of restriction, from a place where it's not 100% landing. And that may energetically feel like that's happening in your life. So lack of, like I said, lack of groundedness, lack of calm, lack of ability to like be centered but remain centered. It's great if you can do meditation or some sort of practice where it brings it in, but as a whole, your life feels like it's a bit chaotic and windy and that things keep, falling down. It could be because of your ankle scar. That's something really important that I want you to keep in mind. So when you work your ankle scar, however old it is, you will feel this very significant and important factor change in your life. This is a huge thing. When you meet the ground in a way that is centered, in a way that is like very efficient, allows for ease of movement, that will like radiate out into your life, into your physical body, but also your expression of life and how you experience your day to day. So that is a huge piece energetically and emotionally that I want you to think about. Now, with the scarring itself, we are always talking about 3 different factors in the emotional, energetic charge related to the scar. Because the the ankle scar is potentially something insignificant. Like maybe you fell off your bike. Maybe you got your ankle caught in a fence. Whatever it is, you got to figure out for you like the emotional quality, like that imprint before the incident itself, during the incident, and then after. So maybe it was an accident, maybe it was a surgery, whatever it is, you got to kind of place these 3 things, because when we have a scar in there, it binds up the physical tissue, but all the emotional quality, like all the energetic quality as well, it gets stuck in that as well. So when you start to work the scar, that energetic quality, all that stuff, that gunk that's stuck in there starts to open up and move as well, which is why scar work is so transformational. It gives you the opportunity to work on something that may have felt like a little bit abstract. Say, for example, I'm just gonna make this up, you were like running when you were younger because you were afraid of like a family member coming, like maybe an older uncle coming to like hurt you. You jumped over a fence, got your foot stuck, and that like fear will remain inside the scar. And maybe you feel that fear of like older men throughout your life. And you're like, I can feel it, I know it, I have that thing. But how do I work on that? Like how do you begin to resolve something like that? It makes these kind of abstract life events very workable because you immediately have an entry point. That's what makes scar work so powerful, is you have an entry point. So things that you may feel are like hindrances or stuff that you can't quite get an angle on to resolve, scar work is super helpful for that. So figure out what the ankle scar is to you and really place the emotional quality of before, during, and after. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And then let's just go into the energetic qualities on the sides of the leg from a Chinese meridian perspective. So I'm not a Chinese meridian practitioner. I just find it incredibly useful. The way that Chinese medicine looks at the body, or like views the body as a relationship to itself and also to nature, is just incredibly profound. And we're kind of totally missing that point in Western medicine. So I want to just trace out some of these meridian channels with you and help you understand the potential potency around thinking about your body in this way. So let's start on the side of the body. So let's start here. Lateral side ankle in this area, outside ankle bone. The gallbladder meridian runs that pathway of the side of the body. In general, the gallbladder is a place where we store a lot of tension around irritability, frustration, all of that kind of like, we're super annoyed, like all that tension can be stored in the side body, all the way down this ankle bone. So if there's something going on the ankle bone for you, that lateral ankle bone, which is usually where we sprain our ankles, usually where we have damaged stuff, it's usually like more open to the outside world, like banging it on stuff or whatever has happened. You can think about the gallbladder channel, and you can look that up online as well to like really see that clear pattern. This channel runs all the way up, and like there's a dance on the head, and it comes down the side body and goes into the foot. So if you're having like headaches, tension headaches in the side of your head, struggle to breathe, all of these things are side body stuff that could be because of an ankle scar that you have on the outside of the ankle. Okay, let's just go into the front. I'll just go around. So front here, there's a few meridians that are in the front shin area. The ones that like make the most sense for this kind of front wall house idea that I was giving you is stomach and spleen pancreas. So these are again like really long, all the leg channels are coming either from top to bottom or bottom to top, but they're spanning a very long distance, like from your torso to your feet. So these are organ channels that you want to think about in relation to like anxiety and worry, and a lot of your like your internal resources, like having that that like significant feeling of like workable stuff. You know when you feel like really drained and depleted and you're like, I got nothing, I'm on fumes? The spleen pancreas is what you want to think about. And then the worry kind of aspect is through the front of the shin, the stomach. Then on the inside, we have the kidney channel, as well as the liver, or more like the inner ones. Liver is like a hot anger, hatred, rage. It's kind of pairs with the gallbladder channel, like those kind of hot tension holding based intense emotions. And then the kidney is around fear. Kidney is incredibly related to swelling and inflammation. It's the filtration, the liquid, like the water filtration unit, the passive unit of the body. So if you have issues or scarring on the inside, you can start thinking about those emotions in that kind of relationship. And then finally, in the back of the body, this is a very large, long channel, and it's related to the bladder. So the bladder channel runs pretty much the whole back of the body. So if you have back of the body stuff, that is what you want to be thinking about. The main emotion or like quality that I usually comment on is the feeling of being like unsupported, the feeling of like that rocky ground, like that feeling I was talking about. If you're hitting your foot on not an ideal place, it's that feeling of being unsupported, and that can happen from any scarring in the back of the ankle, back of the leg. And that's pretty much all that I wanted to share with the ankle. And the ankle is, like I was saying, just so heavily important, even though we are kind of out to lunch on our feet and ankles. We're taught that an ankle sprain is not a big deal. We're taught that, foot stuff is not a really big deal, but some of the most significant things are the way that our feet and ankles do or don't move. If something's going on in your foot and ankle over an extended period of time, the ripple effect is quite profound. So you do want to have these ankle scars on your radar. They absolutely just need to be front and center. So the third part here is what to do. How can we start to work with our ankle scars? And let me just help you like quantify, do I need to work with my ankle scar? Or do I need to pay more attention to the physical or the emotional? And like I mentioned earlier, if it's a very superficial wound, but it was a significant event, then you want to address that energetic, emotional component as a primary, and maybe less so the physical. In my experience, the more you just touch and move and build the relationship back up with your body, the emotional and energetic stuff will start moving as well. Like they're connected. We can't really like parse them apart. So even though you feel like, it doesn't look so bad, I highly recommend making contact, going through this first step, which I'll share in a moment, which is the first step I tell all women to do with every single scar. But when you first start to just look at your scar on your ankle, assess how deep is it? look at it, like check it out. What length is it? Is it like really deep in there, or is it more superficial? Is it like making puckering or like tension-based stuff? If I touch it, what's going on there? You want to really address that. You want to really be on top of that. And then from there, you can start to make a decision around like what's going on there. So my first piece that I always tell women to do is 3 parts. And that like piece I just told you is kind of the first part. So let me make that really clear. You're going to sit or lay in a comfortable place where you feel very safe and like you can get into a bit of work. And you're going to do this with your eyes closed and pick up 2 different things for me. The first thing is the physical, which I kind of just went into detail about. What does it feel like? Is there altered sensation? Meaning like, does some places feel numb? Some places feel really sensitive? Do some places make me feel icky and like sick, which is really common? Is it hot somewhere? Is it cold somewhere? Is there places of held tension, like puckering, areas of the skin that's kind of pulled out, areas of the skin that are kind of stuck and jammed in? You want to be really making like close, meaningful contact with your hands, maybe 1 hand depending on the scar, maybe 2, and activate the sense of touch, really picking up those physical qualities. You want to be doing touch with your hand in bare skin, because touch is the only sense in the body that is reciprocal. It's a 2-lane highway with touch, where every other sense that we have in our body is a single direction, which makes touch incredibly effective as a tool. So once you've grabbed that first quality, the second quality you need to do is the energetic, emotional quality. What's going on in there? Like, what does it feel like? What emotions does it bring up? Just making contact. And again, you want to roll through these 3 kind of situations. You want to do the before the surgery or the incident, the injury, the accident. The during. What was happening during? What kind of emotional stuff was going on? If it was a surgery, there's always fear. There's always doubt. There's very likely like relationship dynamics that made you maybe feel unsupported. There's a ton of that when you get kind of real with the situation and you ask yourself, like, what is still going, like, what do you feel like about that during phase? There's a lot of stuff that can come out, and that's very normal. And then you want to go into the after, the healing phase, the noticing you're always rolling your ankle and thinking like, oh, I'm never gonna, like, what's going on here? Like, why do I keep spraining my ankle? I'm never gonna be able to do that 10K. I feel less than, or I feel whatever it is. There's a lot of things wrapped up that's gonna be in the after as well. So you want to grab those 3 energetic kind of stages as you're making that touch contact. And that's the first part that everyone needs to do. Every single scar needs that much attention and that much care, because we don't know that scars are impactful yet. We don't have that awareness yet. And I suggest this phase to every single woman because you don't want to catch yourself off guard. You don't want to skip over this step, go into something a little bit more direct, and then realize that there's like this whole whack of, explosive emotion in there. Or it's so common that when women start working with their scars, they'll break out into tears. They'll get really angry. And I want you to go through this preliminary stage so that you feel like you've got a good grasp on what is going on in that area, so that as you move forward, you're doing it from a very grounded place where you know what's happening, or at least you know what to expect, rather than jumping into something and being like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. So that's the first step. Now the second step that you're gonna do, and specifically with the ankle scars, I want you to check the level of swelling, like the level of pitting, edema, that Play-Doh plasticine thumbprint that I was talking about. If you can put your thumb in there, take your thumb away, and there remains a thumbprint, even a little bit, you got old gunk hanging around in there that's challenging the efficiency and the ease of movement of all the stuff in the area, which is a ton of stuff, like I was highlighting earlier. It's an insane amount of stuff going through the ankle. It's very significant. So what I want to do with you as your first thing, after you've done the first obvious every scar thing, is you're going to start to move the fluid around. If you do the pitting test and you're like, Kendra, there's nothing there, it's all good, I suggest you do the pitting, look around in other areas. Check the thumbprint test on the top of your foot. Check the thumbprint on the opposite side of the ankle, into the back by your Achilles. And if you feel like it's not a big deal, start to do this anyways, because you may notice a significant change in how the fluid is moving and how your foot looks just by doing this. I have a trained hand to do the pitting test. It is sometimes challenging for people to see stuff in themselves. A lot of the time we think that we need to see something like really significant to like action, but even if it's a small little bit, it matters because there's not a lot of wiggle room in the ankle for extra stuff. So we want to relieve that strain on our physical and energetic body by starting to do some fluid movement. So the most obvious passive thing that you can do is legs up the wall. That's a really simple thing. I suggest doing legs up the wall after this step. So if you don't know what legs up the wall is, it's really quite exactly like that. You lay down on the floor, you scooch your butt up to the wall, and then you flip your legs up so your feet are hanging against the wall, and you're just relaxing passively, allowing, it's kind of like you're giving a break to your system, trying to pull all that fluid back to the heart, but you're assisting it. You're giving it a natural kind of boost. You're helping it out instead of it having to grind through gravity. You're giving it a little bit of a boost. So do that after this step. You're going to do really smooth lymphatic drainage. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your whole hand, not pokey proddy, not like really jabby fingers. That's not the nicest way to approach something where we need to honor and respect our body. You want to be doing a whole hand sweep as you're doing this technique. And wherever I can show you my foot here, wherever your scar is, you're going to be moving the sweep from the direction of the last part, like your foot, and you're going to be sweeping up the leg until you reach your knee. Your knee has a bunch of lymph nodes. So if you can like assist all that fluid to moving to like the next station of like transformation, that pocket of lymph node behind the knee, you're doing your body a huge favor. So you want to be doing these like sweeps all the way up to behind the knee. What I'm doing is I'm taking my whole hand, I'm meeting my skin with like a medium to light pressure. If I'm pushing, I've now bypassed and I'm squashing the fluids, and I'm more like interested in getting like a muscle massage. We're not doing muscle massages, we're doing lymphatic movement. If you do it too light, you may not be getting the depth of like the heavy bogged down fluid. You want to kind of have this dance between medium to light, light to medium pressure, and just moving with about 8 to 18 strokes. There's no hard rule on the amount. And you're moving directly where your scar is, from really low to behind the knee, as well as helping the whole ankle out. So you can come to the front of the ankle, you can come to the sides of the ankle, you can come to the back. And you're doing those sweeping movements all the way to the back of the knee to really assist that movement. Once you've done that, you're going to just get your butt scooched up to the corner of the ground and the wall, swing your legs up, and have your feet just resting there to really, again, improve the efficiency of your fluid system. Once you do that for a week or so, you can go back and do your little pitting test and see that it has probably significantly changed the area and allows the communication of all those tendons, all of those ligaments, all that stuff in the area, like we're talking about the energetic and the neurological connection to our organs, all of that will be running way smoother. And it's a very simple technique, and it's so needed, particularly in the feet, especially if we have scars. It's so, so important. So I think that is all that I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. If anyone has any questions, I'll stay here for a moment. If you were watching this on a replay, please just feel free to ask me a question at any time. Type in your questions. I'm very active on this group. and can answer your questions at any time. If something comes later, I'm very happy to be here. I see lots of hearts and loves and likes, so thank you so much for joining me live. If you have a scar that's just popped into your head and you went, oh my gosh, I got a bottom of the foot scar, or oh my gosh, I have a scar on my jaw, whatever it is, if it's not written down in that announcement board yet, pop it on there, and I would be very happy to address each of these scars individually so you start to know and feel that you have a positive forward direction in your own health transformation. So thank you again so much for being here, and I will see you this week. We have another live coming. Awesome, elbow scar. Yeah, that's a good one. That's on the list, I think, but go add it in, Hima. I would love to do that one. It's gonna be, that one's a good one. It's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. All right, have a good day.